So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on premise to SaaS migration made simple. We're very fortunate to have two presenters today. We have Murali from our product team and we have Malik from our services team. They will do their formal introduction shortly. A couple of reminders before we get started. So for those that haven't used Zoom before, we do have a Q&A section at the bottom. If you click on there, you can ask us questions during this presentation. We will also, however, have live time at the end, roughly around 15 minutes for any questions you may have, and you can do that by raising your hand up and it into the Q&A. Also, we will be sharing some customer success stories as well, so if there's any questions on that as well, that will be the last section as well. Roughly we'll be spending around 40 or so minutes on the initial slides and then going through those customer success stories. Another reminder is, because this is a live session, if you do want to speak to us live, this is being recorded and will be shared on our social platforms. So if you do need to change your name or you don't want it to be shared, if you can do that now. Otherwise, I think we'll get started. So Murali, I'm going to now hand over to you firstly.
Thank you, Sam. Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Murali Vishwanathan. I'm a solution architect from R&D. Okay, today I'll walk you through the, I think we have met, some of you we have met before, and we did one of these sessions in a partner roundtable, I think a year and a half ago. So it's more like a refresher to a few folks and maybe new to some folks. So happy to present. So today's agenda, we're going to look at the end-to-end process for how one can successfully migrate from on-premises to Helix. And the reason we say we made simple, because we've done some amazing automations and amazing tools available for you so hopefully to be more kind of simpler for you to move forward and hopefully less pressure on you guys. Okay, so we'll cover how to prepare and plan for your migration, and then we'll talk about the activation tasks which happen during in SaaS and what is your role and how things will get done. And we'll also cover about how you can migrate your customizations into the SaaS cloud environments, and also to look at your integrations and how to optimize them, and which ones can come as is, which one you need to do some work, and things like that. And then, of course, we will be covering about the data migration using our Helix Data Manager, which will cover most of our products like ITSM, Smart IT, DWP Catalog, and some smart reporting versions. And we also have another utility to migrate your data for DWP specific data. So we have a utility called DWP Export Import. We'll touch base on those as well. And the next stage on the on the project will be your unit testing. Then we'll cover the Delta migration, which is called the incremental run with an HTML tool. And then we cover the phase for UAT, pre-final migration, and then Emulate Cutover 2, which is practicing your Delta migration again and noting down all your timings and good stuff, and then we go live, right? So what have we done in the last 1.5 years to make it simpler? So, for example, our activations, right? So if you guys know, the activation and provisioning process involves a lot of teams in the SaaS what we call umbrella, right? So we have our network team and server teams and database teams and all that, right? So what we've done is we have added automation, and then now a lot of things happen in an automated fashion, and the teams are still there available to see and to fix things if something gets broken or something gets missed, right? But the activation is working great, and I think we reduced from 20 to 25 days to 10 days now for most of our data centers. So that's good news there. And then some of you might already know, so we give you a development staging server for full access to partners and professional services teams to make sure that they take advantage of the development server, because that's where your core work is being done, or the development staging server. So we introduce automations where you can ask for stop services, start services, take your backup, restore backups, and also you can have a start service option for quiet mode and full mode. Quiet mode meaning that it's admin only mode, and all the processes and services, even though some are running, it will not affect your data, right? So you can still do your development work and things like that. And the full mode is basically opening it up for testing and making sure all the processes and everything is up and running, right? And we also recently made available these tools in EPD, the workflow migration utility, the license conversion, and the auto reconciliation. So again, we hope that those will definitely help you during your stage 3, which is your customizations, right? Bringing in a customizations and license conversion and assessment will help you during your planning stages. So hopefully these tools will make the process more simpler for you guys. And of course, we have enhanced our automation on the database refresh process. So we have our automation to cover your pre and post activities. For example, when you do when you ask for a DB refresh from a dev to QA, dev to prod, and the Helix environment, dev staging, basically, that'll be your source. So what it'll do is that the automation will take care of exporting all the configurations on the target, preserving them, and then reapplying it after the actual DB restore is done. So this way, any configurations you have done during your initial stage, whatnot, you don't have to repeat it because it's going to take care of those, backing up those configurations and reapplying them. And lastly, we have automated all our health check assessments, which happens typically on the week of go live or on the go live. So these are the and we are working to do more improvements in automation, so to help you speed up this process or make it easier for you. So this is how we look at a high-level 10-stage process, and there's a documentation link available. And hopefully you already have those. If you're a customer or a partner or I've already done some migration, you already have those links. But yeah, so this will be available in the slide deck, and Sam will send it out to you guys. So if you look at the high-level stages, so stage 1 is basically where you'll be doing your planning exercise, looking at your environments and analyzing them for your implementation plan, your data migration plan, your project plan, whatnot, right? So that while BMC is working to activate your environments, right? And stage 2 is kind of activation and provisioning kind of combined together, where stage 2 you'll be working on configuring your client gateway, your FTP stuff and all that. And then stage 3 is your development phase, 4 is your data migration, 5 is your unit testing, 6 is your UAT, 6 is your Delta migration, which is EC1, and 7 is your UAT. 8 is optional if you're not able to freeze, if the customer is not able to freeze restrictions, so we give them an opportunity to do one more full migration. And then stage 9 is your immediate cutover 2, where you'll practice all the steps you're going to be practice and time it, right? All the steps you're going to do on your go live, and then the go live will be you'll be redoing the steps, which is you should do on stage 9, right? It's the high-level process, and let's go into detail on these. Supported migration paths. So the minimum source versions are on your screen. So ITSM, we do have a longer coverage from your older versions. So Digital Workplace and other products, if you see, we expect you to be on 2002, right? Smart IT, we can support from 1805. So even though we say smart reporting 2002, but then there's a target version of smart reporting. So it's 21.05, and after that we are not supporting smart reporting. So that's the last version you can get. But we strongly encourage customers to start looking at dashboards and start creating the reports there. So how do you get ready with what is needed from your on-premises side? So on your on-premises side, you need a dedicated tool server. You need a dedicated database server where you can have a copy of your database, product database over. And we also want you to have your download the latest tools in another environment, right? So we don't want you to have your tool server and your development tools on the same environment. So that's why we picture it as we're expecting you to have three different servers for these, right? So tool server, one for your development work with all your latest clients downloaded there for the latest versions, and then your dedicated DB database server where you'll have your copy of your production database during the migration cycles. So if you see the tools have increased as we said, so we're giving you more tools to leverage. So also during your planning stage, since as I said, sorry for this, I'll try to fix this or ignore this for now. Sorry for that. So we have introduced 3 new tools recently, right? The license conversion, utility, the workflow migration, auto recon. So the license conversion has 2 parts to it. So during your initial stages on the planning, even though you don't have access to the Helix systems yet, it's still okay. So what you can do is you can run this utility against the customer's current production environment, and it'll basically run in an assessment mode to check for the compliance. So for example, it'll pull up a report and see if they are compliant with the license they purchased for the fixed and floating and all that good stuff. And we also compare to what they would like, what they would need to buy from a bundle license perspective. So it'll give you both those comparisons. The output has a nice Excel sheet with multiple tabs where it has some macros written it'll calculate for you, like if you're compliant or non-compliant and how many licenses you need to buy to be compliant. All those good details will be taken care. And then once you either rearrange your licenses for say, let's say, for example, you have like 20 fixed licenses assigned to people with obsolete or offline profiles, right? So definitely it's an opportunity for you to reassign those and then again rerun the compliance to see if you're still compliant, and it'll tell you what are the additional bundle licenses you need to purchase to be compliant. Plus, it'll also encourage you to buy 5 or 10% more licenses. The reason is that, let's say you plan and go live and you have few new resources coming in, new people onboarding, then you'll have enough license to cover your new hires, right? So that's how it's a pretty good tool. You can run the assessment mode. You have a good Excel sheet to read and act on, right? So there's a link there at the bottom of the screen, which will also take you to that information. And also, once you've done that, once you have your Felix systems ready, and once you complete your data migration, now you can imagine your data migrated will be in your old classic licenses, right? So your people profiles will be assigned to the old classic licenses. Now you run this again, so that way it'll basically run the utility again in conversion mode. So it'll convert those licenses to bundle licenses. So you run this conversion in at least multiple times in the cycle, because anytime you move data, you need to run it, because the people profile will have classic licenses tagged to them. So this gives you a picture of what license we have available and on the bundle licenses, and what entitlements, so what applications are tied to it, to be honest, right? So suite, for example, if you buy a suite ITSM service management user license, you're basically going to get all these permissions, right? Access to all these applications, right? So similarly with service desk, you're going to get these applications licensed. With service optimization, you're going to get these applications, products or application. So this is just a summary. So based on your license conversion assessment, prepare the number of bundle licenses required. So basically, find after your assessment, go purchase your required bundle licenses. So once the environments are set up, as I said, you can apply these licenses to the add remove licenses form. So it's ready. So you have the licenses available. Then when you run the conversion utility after the data is migrated, then it'll be able to allocate these licenses to your people profile. So the other important task on the planning is, and as I said, while you get the SaaS team going with their provisioning task, ordering and provisioning task. So what can the project team, when I say project team, it could be the customer and the partner combination, customer partner, BMC professionals combination, or just partners, or just BMC professional services, right? So end of the day, the project team is responsible for getting these documents ready and getting a project plan ready. So that way, you have a draft and you have your questions answered way ahead in the project, right? So for example, if you're a partner or a PS, you have access to templates. So where you can download these 3 templates: the implementation planning questionnaire, the project plan template, and the go live template, right? So once you have those questionnaire templates, the questionnaire template will really help you to go and assess the customer's environment for what their customization, their integrations, and if they're doing anything like a direct SQL or run process or integration with DB write operations. So there are certain things. If you look at the questionnaire, there's a tab where it calls about integrations, where it will tell you which integrations you may have to redesign. So for example, if you're doing a read-only DB copy, it's fine in SaaS, that's okay. So you can still do a read-only from a database for integration. But if you have some integration which is writes to the database, then you have to redesign them, right? Similarly, if you have like direct SQL and workflows, we strongly recommend you to redesign them, because it was not allowed in the SaaS environment. But let's say you have direct SQL, which you have extended our data wizard functionality, then it's okay. Which still you still need to raise a ticket for assessment. So we'll assess it for you and then say, yeah, you may have to do some changes, or it looks good to move forward. From a direct SQL perspective, the only thing we allow is extension for database functionality. Otherwise, if you do have direct SQLs in your workflows, we want you to redesign them. Same thing with run process. If there's a run process workflow which is calling a file in a system or anything on like a binary or anything like that, it's not allowed. You may have to redesign that, because on a cloud, there's no permanent operating system in a cloud environment, right? Basically, when a container restarts, it's basically going to rebuild everything for you, right? So those are the assessment thing we want you to know of, and carefully create an implementation plan with all those sections, like what are my customizations, what are my integrations. For example, in the customizations, also you need to look at anything like a field ID ranges, for example, right? If any forms or fields are in the field ID ranges, right? So we have to fix them. So those are the main things. It'll be there in the questionnaire, which we can cover it. Optional, you can run the analyzer tool, but it's optional. But these are the core things you need to look for, right? So that's what I basically summarized here. So the spreadsheet will have on-premises, Helix environment, and related sheets. And we are giving you some SQL scripts to go and run to grab custom objects, overlay objects. We have SQL scripts to go find the run process workflows, direct SQL workflows, and we have SQL scripts to embedded in the on-prem tab, which will also go find you any field which is in our range, right? All that is available for you on the on-prem tab. The Helix environment tab on the questionnaire is all about what you purchased, what the customers purchased. And then there'll be a third tab for integrations, which is where we'll be asking you questions about, does this integration need read access to DB, write access, all those good questions. So you can basically leverage these questionnaire. And what we're expecting from the project team is come up with an implementation plan with all these sections. And you have an opportunity in this planning stage to reach out to BMC, to have some SME, like an architect like me, or from someone from my team or sales team and R&D, to get on a call with you to review your implementation plan and to give you guidance. So that we can definitely be available for you. But once you get your hands on the keys and you're starting to implement, if you get into a issue, then you have to follow the normal support route, right? But there is an offering from engineering standpoint, like if you are not using a professional services, if you just need guidance, is there. Otherwise, you can always go and get our professional services who will be able to sit with you and help you in any of the stages, right? So once you have your implementation plan ready, data migration plan ready, if you have any questions proactively, as I said, before you go do anything on the system, there is an opportunity from BMC. We can work with you to review those and give you best practices. Same thing if you want to have if you have created a project plan using a template and all the tasks are live, you want to have a review before you go and make it what do you call fix it or whatever, because before you say, okay, this is my project plan, I'm going to use it for whatever, before you freeze it, you have an opportunity. We can also get involved to guide you there as well. One important note which we put in this slide is because often you will definitely, if you're a migrant to SaaS, you will definitely get two person involved in your project, right? One, we call it OSS and then OSM. So the onboarding service specialist and then the onboarding service manager. So the OSMs will handle your tickets, and the OSS will answer any questions for you on the process, include the process. That's their goal. They will answer your questions on the process if you have any questions and whatnot. But because this is more like a self-driven kind of, we have made it in such a way that this is a self-driven process, which means if you raise a ticket for activation, if you raise a ticket for DB refresh and whatnot, there are people available behind the scenes who pick up your tickets and work with you, right? So we strongly recommend you to work with them, right? Give them some opportunity, work with them, and then only if things don't move, then you can copy the OSS and OSMs, right? So that way, because if you have like 10 tickets going on in parallel, we won't be able to know which tickets is what state and water, because they'll be working directly with you. So our recommendation or our suggestion is to see if you can work through those tickets, because there are a lot of teams behind the scenes for each of your tickets. They will definitely get back to you, and in fact they even have an escalation process where you can also reach out to their managers or CC them or whatnot if it's past 12 or 24 or 48 hours, right? So I'm not saying do not go to OSS and OSM for anything you need. I'm not saying that, but all I'm saying is leverage the process, because the process in such a way we built in such a way the process will work for you for getting you unblocked. Right? So this is basically what I was saying. So once you have the implementation questionnaire, you will be able to get all your information you need to go and look into the custom environment and scope for your ERCBB object customizations, what you need to fix, what you need to redesign, or what can be exported and imported automatically directly, which is there's no changes. Again, integrate. You can look into integrations to see if anything you need to redesign or anything, or it is more like a lift and shift, and also look at the configurations is very important, right? Because SaaS comes up with some standard configuration, right? So you may have to. In fact, we also in the questionnaire recommend you to check your configurations, right? And in fact, you can run the config checker available from our products too, right? So run the config checker, take a report, and then compare it what SaaS has, and then let's say you have to go and customize some configurations. For example, there's a setting in the configuration settings, the EMEA, which is 2000 or whatever you want it, 4000 or whatever that's still, and as long as it's allowed, then you should be able to even bring those configurations, right? But the config check will help you to get your picture and then compare to SaaS and then make your decisions, right? So any configuration changes you need to do, put it on the implementation plan so that we are aware. And again, we have an opportunity to work with you to say, hey, you know what, this is too much, fix this, keep it low, whatever, right? We can we can help you with the discussions, right? But the problem is if you don't, if some partner or some customer don't have an implementation plan and they begin the project, then if at all there's some issue, then it'll delay the project, or there'll be you won't have enough information to support you. So we request or recommend you to please create some implementation plan earlier in the cycle before even you go for anything you're doing on the implementation plan. If you see there's no dependency on the SaaS. Of course, you need to know what is allowed or what is not allowed or what not. That's why the questionnaire is there for you. The questionnaire has this information for you, right? And we are also in you will already have access to a page called Helix subscriber pages in the docs page. Even there are a lot of sections, a lot of good information there you can also leverage. So it'll tell you about how SaaS team works and what kind of patch we do and when we do and all those good things, and what are the integrations and allowed. Like for example, it'll tell you you can have integrations with your Active Directory and all that. So all that good information is there. So you should be able to prepare some implementation plan with all your analysis. And as I said, you can get guidance from our SEAL team and R&D to guide you with any questions so that you can complete this plan. Same thing for your data migration plan. Scope it with your custom fields and all that with your volume. So that's the only thing you need to worry about it, because HTM has migration packs for all the versions which we support, and it'll work automatically for you. So the only thing you need to extend it to add your custom forms and fields, right? So stage one, activation. So stage 1 and 2 combined is what I'm going to cover. So the activation process, you complete the ordering process, right? And once you complete the ordering process, I said between 10 and 20 days, anywhere in that time, you'll be given a system. You'll be given 3 environments, dev, QA, and prod. You'll also get email configured for you, one inbound, one outbound, and you'll have a permanent FTP location. Again, this is primarily given to you with for if you want to have any integrations where you want to bring in the files and maybe trigger an EI job or things like that. So that's the main purpose for that. It will be permanent for you, so you can have an inbound, outbound folders where you can keep your files in there. So once you have the environments provisioned and made it available to you, please do validate and to make sure you got everything you need and make sure everything is working, right? So that we strongly recommend. So that way, if there's anything missed or anything you're looking for, it's not there. So you have an opportunity to go and get that sorted out before that activity is resolved. So client gateway. So what is client gateway, right? So basically, there are 3 use cases for client gateway, to be honest, right? So one is how do you connect your tools, right, which you have in on-prem to the SaaS environment, right? If you have any integrations which is not using the HTTPS, it has a port integrations. So how do you connect to the SaaS, right? And we give you a staging server. How do I access staging server? So the answers for all this is the client gateway, right? So the casing is the software. So you know to download the casing client gateway. So that again, the Helix subscriber pages has information for that. It has a document you can download, and you can follow those instructions, and you can download the client gateway, right? So now the client gateway on your side has a gateway server or casing server in the SaaS side, right? So we have the server on our side, you have the client on your side, and it talks with HTTP. It's 443, 480. That's all you need. Just internet access is all you need from that environment, right? So once you install the client gateway, you can go create a lifecycle request ticket. So please do that. I don't recommend you to chase people on through emails or whatever. Once you install, what to do next, please don't do that. Please go create a lifecycle request. That's exactly why it's available for, because that will go and get you the right person from the right team to work with you to configure the client gateway, right? The OSS, the OSM, the support team may not have this information, right? So that is why we have this lifecycle request for you. So in download, go to the Hiri subscriber pages, find the client gateway information, download it, or you can ask your OSS to get that for you. That's fine. But do not work with the OSS or OSM to ask questions on the client gateway. It's not that we don't want you to do that, but the reason we don't want that is because we have a process, right? You click the lifecycle request, there will be a person assigned to you. That person is the best person for you to answer any questions on the client gateway and anything like that. So that's what we really encourage you to do it, if you don't mind. So do that, please, and then get your client configured to the server on our side. Then do not close the ticket unless you verify the connection connecting to Developer Studio. So if you have a Developer Studio on your installed on the client on your side, then what you will do is you will not put a server name to connect to the server. You'll put a client gateway IP address, right? And then you will put the port, which is configured on the config XML file, which is available for the casing, right? That's how it works. So that way you validate the connection, only then you close the ticket. So that way you have a person with you dedicated to work with you to make sure it works for you. So that happens through a ticket, right? So please do that. So as I said, there are two other use cases for the client gateway. So one is the main thing. So like we create a lifecycle request and get that done. So now your client is working and you're able to connect with your Developer Studio and tools, right? Or your import tool, whatever. Any tools, you should be able to connect it. Even in fact, the workflow migration utility, which I talked about, you should be able to use that. So any tools of which we talk about, you have to use the client gateway to make the connection, right? Now all the tools will be installed on premises, nothing on the SaaS side. So I'll come to it, what will be available in the SaaS side in just a moment, right? So for integrations, as I said, any integration which does not use as HTTPS or it uses a port, we want you to configure on the client gateway, right? For example, the common things we have seen as the LDAP, Active Directory integration, where if you configure a port, then you'll be able to trigger an AI job, right? Which is good for the people load use case, right? And any third-party integrations you want to use a port. We want you to encourage using the client gateway. And finally, as I said, a remote desktop connectivity. So you will be given a staging server for all the activity with full admin access and whatnot. And that's the environment which you need to use to complete all your development work, data migration work, and everything, integration testing, configuration, whatnot, initial integration, configuration testing, right? All that. And then once you're done, then you'll have a DB refresh process to take that DB and promote it to Q and Pro, right? But all your work will be done on the developer staging server. So to access that, you need the client gateway, right? And you'll have an egress port configured through which you'll be able to connect. You don't need to have a VM or something. It's all through URL based. So this is the development staging server I was talking about. So in your development staging server, you will also have a few utilities available, right? So you'll have the HTM tool available for you, the DWP utility. The reason these two tools are available on both sides is because you will do an export, FTP, and then import, right? The data. That's why it's available. But for the workflow migration utility, license conversion, Developer Studio, all that will be still in your on-premise, and you'll be using the client gateway to make the connection. So once you request for a staging server, you'll be given these three, and you'll be given all these three behind the scene for you to take leverage of, right? So you'll be given a Windows server, which the Postgres PD admin tool, which will give you access to the Postgres database, and then you'll have a DWP utility, as I said, for the migrating DWP specific data, and HTM to cover the rest of the data you need for the ITSM, digital catalog, and smart IT. And you'll be given a Linux database behind the scene where you'll be the copy of the out-of-the-box developments environments copy will be made available to you here. So basically, when you click the URL, once your staging server is ready, when you click the URL for dev, your URL for the server will be the cloud. but the database will be pointed to the development staging server till you go live. So that's how you don't need to add a separate URL. So your developer URL which is working, will show all the data from the staging server. That's how it will be configured till you go live. Once you go live, then you will have a decommissioning process where now your dev server or dev environment, cloud environment will be pointing to the actual dev, and you can decommission the staging server. Right. So till then, this is the server, database server to be pointing to. And then, of course, you'll get a temporary FTP location. The reason for that, as I said, is the reason it's temporary is we'll only hold the files or data for 10 to 15 days, because just for security reasons, right? So we basically, and also for space reasons too, right? So once you complete your HTML export, you can use the FTP to import the data, and then into the Helix environment, and then you can download it to your staging server and then do your import process. Okay, so we also introduced one more self-service configuration, so which is your single sign-on. So we do allow SAML and Active Directory authentications, right? So for both, we have step-by-step instructions on how you can configure it by self-service, right? Which means you don't need any ticket anymore. So you will be given access to how to create realm entries, and you can configure them, right? And there are links available for both the use cases. So now we have completed our activation, and we have also seen the need for the client gateway. We also seen the need for the staging server and all that good stuff. So now from a SaaS team perspective, or BMC's SaaS team perspective, you have the infrastructure and you have the environment ready for you, right? So now is the project team's baton to go do your work, which is the two major things I see is the two major tasks you need to do is work on your customization, migration, work on your integration configurations, right? And those are the two major milestones. And of course, as part of the customization migration, you'll be doing your reconciliation, right? Auto reconciliation, 3-year reconciliation, those activities. And of course, you'll be configuring your integrations and any redesign, rework. So this is the major bucket for you to do all your work to make sure that whatever the customer has today is brought over and it's ready to go, right? So once that's the main goal of this step. And the other major stage where you'll be working is the data migration, which is stage 4. Okay, so on stage 3, before you start, right? So as we know that if let's say a customer has some cycles to promote data from dev to prod or whatnot, so let's make sure that you pick a date where most of the milestones are already accomplished and everything is already promoted to the prod, and so there's no major change requests or major milestones maybe in the next 3 months, 4 months. So if there's anything like coming in the next couple of weeks or a month, see if you can work with the customer to prepone those activities, if they can move those code earlier. So that way, all I'm saying is find a spot where you can enable this freeze, right? That way, from this stage 3 to stage 8 or stage 9, we want to make sure that they can do changes and they can promote it, but let's make it calculated. That's the main what do you call recommendation we want to give you, main message we want to send you, right? So you don't want customers to go crazy in changing forms and changing fields and creating new CMDB classes, going crazy with SRDs or reporting, right? So if they have major milestones like that, please, I would rather make them wait and do those milestones and then start the freezing, right? So that way you can try to do any unavoidable changes. You can try to avoid it, because they are entering into a kind of an upgrade mode right now, right? Upgrade project or migration project, right? So enable the freeze restrictions and make sure the customer or the project team need to track anything moving forward from stage 8. So track it, whatever changes they make to the forms and the fields and data, and not, when I say data, mainly on the configuration side and admin side, like reorgs and things like that. And then anything on the CMDB side, SRDs, SVTs, try to avoid those, right? And if not avoidable, then make it track them and create a document. And this is why we recommend to freeze. But let's say due to non-variable circumstances, they're not able to freeze. We will be giving you one more opportunity, stage 8. So as you know, we have 10 stages, right? So stage 8 will be the final opportunity. After that, they have to freeze, right? So the reason is, from stage 8, we are hoping that you'll be able to go live in a couple of weeks. That's the vision, right? So as I said, we have made available tools for you to see if you can speed up or simplify these processes for migrating your customizations, right? So the workflow migration utility supports from version 2002. So it's a great tool. It can migrate your customizations from both CMDB and AR, right? So of course you can use your traditional way of exporting and import to Developer Studio. And as you know, we also have our deployment console, which is available through mid-tier access. So you can use the deployment console user interface to export and import your customization. There are multiple ways. So it's a link at the bottom of the screen. All these three methods with different combinations and use cases, everything is covered in those two links, one for AR, one for CMDB. So let's walk through how the customization workflow migration looks like. It has 12 steps, and you can either run it individually or you can run we have an option to which you can choose. It'll run all the 12 steps for you as long as you're ready for that. When I say you're ready for that, your customization migrations are done. You're not making any changes with your classes and attributes and whatnot, and all is ready to go, and you're in 2002, right? So those are the two prerequisites, right? Everything should be, your customization should be in working condition in your current production, in customer's current production, and you have a copy of that now. So you're taking copy and moving it, right? So you can directly point the workflow migration utility to your production server. So it's not going to do anything. It's going to do a pull. So yeah, if you want to do it on a less active time in your day, that's fine. But it's only going to do queries, right? So it's going to do the export of all your it'll do in a sequential mode, right? It'll export your customizations for CMDB first. It'll validate it, it'll migrate it, and it'll also do a asset sync for you, right? To make sure that your CMDB and asset is in sync for the lifecycle attributes. It'll rebuild any unions, forms, and all that. It'll also bring in your traditional customizations and overlay objects. And finally, it'll also run something called auto reconciliation. What that means is, let's say you have an overlay on an object where you have made a change to a field, and for some reason, BMC also made a change. So because it's an overlay, BMC, instead of you doing a manual reconciliation, when you do manual reconciliation, you may also be forced to also fix the field we touched, right? So in the past, that's what was happening. So with auto recon, what's going to happen is, if the field was not touched by you, but it's still an overlay, but there was some changes made by BMC, we will auto recon that, which means you don't have to worry about that field anymore, right? So that's basically what auto recon does for you. One more important thing the auto recon does is it generates a file, and we only wanted to use that file for your manual reconciliation. I'll just cover that in a bit. So let's say you're either not in a 2002 version, or one other thing I forgot to tell you, the workflow migration utility, when it migrates CMDB customization or any customizations, it's going to migrate all or nothing. So it doesn't have an option to pick and choose, right? So it's going to migrate all your customizations in CMDB and all your customizations in AR, right? But if you're in a situation that you do not want to migrate all your customizations, then you cannot use workflow migration utility, right? That's what I forgot to mention. That's the key. So in that case, you have to export and import your customizations through a Developer Studio or deployment console, or a combination of both. That's still okay. But one good thing is you can still run the auto recon, right? So once you have your customizations migrated for both AR and CMDB, you can still run the auto reconciliation manually, right? With the pointing to the def files and all that. So then it'll do the work for you, and then it'll basically create a output file, which we want you to use it through Developer Studio to do the manual reconciliation. So that's what I'm going to cover in the next slide. So if you see, the auto recon generates an XML file, so it'll for each object, right? So it'll cover that, and then then what you need to do is you copy that file and place it in the workspace folder, and then log in to Developer Studio. Once you log in, you'll be able to see something called Recon Application on your left-hand side on the panel. Once you click that, you will automatically see all the objects from the XML which it created for the different object types, like forms, filters, escalations, what do you call guides and whatnot. So you'll be able to see the list of the objects which you need to reconcile manually. That's it. You don't have to go and do the three-way reconciliation with comparing all the old what do you call overlay and the new overlay and the new base, you don't have to do all that because you still need to connect like that, but the only object you need to manually reconcile is from this list, right? So we have simplified that for you. So yeah, so once you have moved your customizations, you run the auto reconciliation, and then you have to complete your three-way reconciliation through the process. So that's what I explained to you. You have to complete that. So that way now your customizations will be available now, and it should be in a working condition. So what else customers usually do, right? Again, because it's even though it's a kind of you get a fresh environment, you migrate your customizations, you migrate the data and go live. But there are certain things you can do because let's say you're primarily an ITSM customer and now you're going to be using Smart IT or you already have Smart IT and you want to bring in your brandings and whatnot, or if you want to create some reports. So there are some scope for some new development. And again, we don't want you to go crazy on this because you're still in a migration project. We want you to go live first and then leverage a lot of new features and functionalities and keep pushing things from dev to QA and prod after you go live. But there are certain things you can still do. You can bring in your allow customizations in digital workplace and digital workplace catalog. You can create some new catalogs if you want. The customer needs them. You can create some new reports. All that is good because we don't expect this to make come in way for your integrations or affect your data or whatnot, right? So because these are all new things you'll be creating. Last but not least, your integrations, very important ones, right? So of course, all our own products, the BMC products which we have, are still supported. So some of them are listed there, so you can still use our own BMC products like Discovery and Virtual Chat and whatnot. You can still integrate them with the SaaS, and it'll still work, right? It should still work. And third-party integration. So if you have any third-party integrations, please, if you have anything other than what is listed here, methods you use, please redesign them. And we strongly encourage you to redesign them using REST APIs because we will be focusing more on REST APIs and enhancing the features and whatnot. So that's our future. So we really want you to use that. And then if you're a customer, if you're using web services, the SOAP web services, it's very, very, very similar, right? For you to transition from your web service REST API should be very, 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 very smoother because now the REST API will be using the same interface forms. Let's say today you're using a SOAP web service and using an interface form, like incident interface form, to create an incident. For you to redesign that or reflip that, it's going to be very, very easy because now when you call the REST API, you can directly call the directly call the interface form, and you can push the data there. So it's basically seamless transition from that use case perspective. And of course, we do support our traditional AR API and CMDB API, but as I said, we strongly recommend most of your third-party integration leverage our REST API for your integrations, right? So where are we now? We are in stage 4, wherein we have the environment set up for you. Everything is up and running. You brought in your customizations. You're happy with it. You already checked that. Everything is good. So now it's time to bring in your data, right? So one thing we always recommend is even though, let's say, you're migrating from 2002 version, or even like say, if you're an ITSM, it's 1808 or 1805 still okay, but we want you to still download the latest and greatest version of the tools, right? Please download them for both HTM and DWP. And for the on-premises, you will have to download, but for the staging server, through your staging server processing, provisioning, we will download it for you, right? The HTML and DWP utility will be available when you access the staging server, right? Just check the versions, make sure you have the same versions compatible, because when the SaaS team delivers the staging server to you, they would have already downloaded the latest and greatest version. So double check the version and make sure you have the same version on the on-premises. And of course, make sure you have, before you start any migration, make sure you have your static database with a copy of your on-premises production. That's very important because we don't want you to pull data from a live database for the initial migrations, right? So again, what are the tools? We have the HTM tool, Release Data Manager, which covers the tools on the left. As I said, Smart Reporting, we only cover till 2105, right? So even though you have a 23.x products for Innovation Suite, when I say Innovation Suite, it's the ITSM, all your smart apps and all that. But smart reporting will be only in 21.5, right? So again, our recommendation is always like, if you have smart reporting reports, please try to recreate them in dashboards. We are working on some conversion utility. When it's made available, you will know more about it. So what kind of report it can convert, what it cannot convert, what you still have to do manual, all that will be addressed. But for now, we recommend you to go create those in dashboards, right? And of course, we have the DWP utility, export import utility, which will help you to migrate your DWP specific data. So there are so this is more like a pre-migration prerequisites, right? So on the HTM, you have something called clear down script if you want to use to go and clean up some data. So you can in fact you can check the farm counts, right? Check the farm counts. If you need to run it, you can run the clear down script. But if you have followed a process, you would have a golden backup taken right after your customization migration, and the system will be already in quiet mode. So there won't be any data at all, right, if you follow the process. But if at all there's some test data, if you create it or something like that, you can use the clear down script to clean it up, right? And then execute the migration. And then for the digital workplace, so there's one important prerequisite step here. These forms listed, these are processing forms, and we have a history. We've seen a lot of customers. These can have records up to 1 million records, right? Or more than that, right? We've seen if they've been having DWP for a while now, at least a couple of years or whatnot. So these tend to accumulate more data. So we strongly recommend you to work with your customer, we have scripts available for you in this article. You run those scripts and clean up these forms before you do any data migration, because otherwise you'll be bringing unnecessarily millions of records on these forms over to the SaaS side and then clean up later. So, and also the data migration will be very, very slow if you have a lot of records in these forms. So we strongly encourage you to work with your customer, get the data cleaned up. Again, don't clean up everything on this form. So that's why we have a utility, because these forms will also have some data which will be still needed to be processed, right? So that's why it's very key to understand what you need to clean up. So please read the community article, but then please do clean up these data before you do the migration. So HTM, right? What are the? I'm just trying to cover the high level steps here, because we have done HTM webinars before. You also have a web-based training available and instructor-led training available. We strongly encourage you to take those courses. If you're not done those yet, please do take those trainings. But I'm just trying to cover the high level steps here. So again, prerequisite, create a database, as I said, a copy of production. Then the next step will be to register your source and target, right? And then we want you to register your target as remote, because it will be remote, because you're doing an on-prem SaaS migration, right? And then on the right-hand side, on the staging server, you'll be registering the target as remote. So that's the key. So you'll be here, you'll be remote, register source as local, target system as remote, source as remote, sorry. You'll be doing the source as remote and target as local, right? So that's the only thing. Then then once you've done this, then you will copy the files over to FTP from the staging to the on-prem, and then you will run the discovery on the on-prem side, right? So once you do the discovery, then you will get your data dictionary. Then you'll be doing the discovery on both sides. Discover on the on-prem side separately, discover on the staging server side separately, and as I said, you'll be copying the files over to complete the discovery for the data dictionary. So once you have everything there, then you have to import the data discovery metadata, and then you'll be configuring the file systems, then download the template for migration packs for your versions. Then the last thing is you'll be adding your custom forms, right? So there's two ways to do it. Either you can add the custom forms to out of the box pack, which I personally won't recommend, because what you can do is you can run a migration without the custom forms to validate everything, so that out of the box mapping everything works. Then you can create a separate custom package for your custom forms and do it this way. If there's any issues with the custom forms, it will not going to affect your migration. But that is totally up to you. You can always add custom forms to a copy of our out of the box pack as well and run it, or you can run it as two steps, right? So once you add that, then you run the export job. Then, as I said, your FTP to the staging server. Then you need to download it, and then you need to run the import. So again, this is very high level, and as I said, there's trainings available for you to take to get more deep into these activities. And in fact, the instructor-led training, which I strongly recommend, will give you hands-on on these tools. So you'll be able to get servers and do all these steps in hands-on. So after you complete the migration, it's very important. We have the post-migration scripts. We don't want you to miss those. You need to run those. The most important thing it'll do is fix any server hard-coded server references, fix any next ID stuff. So those are the key things it does. But it also runs some data transformations needed. So I would strongly recommend you to download it and run it immediately after successfully migrating your data. Run the post-migration scripts before you move on to the next product, right? So this is the sequence we want you to do. So complete your HTM for ITSM, then complete it end to end, like pre-step, migrate, post-migration, take a backup, right? And then go do your digital workplace catalog migration, same thing, pre-migration, migration, post-migration, again, take a backup. Smart reporting as applicable, then do smart IT. So now you'll have a backup, you'll be overwriting back and forth so that at the end you'll have a backup too, which with all the data migrated, right? Let's say, for example, after ITSM backup, ITSM migration took a backup, something went wrong on your catalog data, you can always go back to the backup 2 and then redo it. So that way you have a starting point where you're not going too far back, right? And then good news is, as I said, as per enhancements, these backups, right? You can do self-service, right? So the backups and restores, start services, stop services, whatever's needed for the process, is all self-service on the development staging server. And when I say self-service, again, if something let's say in a couple of hours or 2 or 3 hours, whatever, if it comes back, then you'll be notified that if something went wrong, there'll be a work order will be automatically created, and there'll be a team working on it, and they'll be giving you an update. Okay, digital workplace. So after you completed the migration of HTM for all the other products, so for digital workplace, these are the components which will migrate. So there are two sets of components. So one is the schema components or the other components. So the user sessions SMTP configuration providers are common, and these are specifically for each tenant. So for each tenant, it'll have the location, calendar, all these components here. So these are the common ones, right? So these are for each tenant, so it'll migrate. Again, for this step 1, set up the export utility on the on-prem server, transfer the data, and then import it, right? So that's what happens. So you'll have this utility again in both places, so then you can use it for the export and then FTP use it for the import. So just a summary of that. So set up the export utility, configure the connection. So we have connection properties available for all the 3 databases we support on the on-prem, like SQL Server, Oracle, and Postgres, right? And you set up the environment variable configurations, then run the export. So those are the 4 main steps you'll be doing for the export tasks. Then you'll FTP, and then once you have the data, then you do the same thing, right? You basically configure it and then import it, and then it'll be in a zip file, and then once you import it, all the data will be available for you, right? And then you can validate it. So this is again. The reason I'm showing this slide again is, if you remember, we ran the license conversion in assessment mode in the planning stages, and now because we have all the data now, so all your people profiles at this stage will still have the classic licenses assigned to them. And now you run the conversion, run the utility conversion mode. This is going to convert all your people profile to bundle licenses. So we are in stage 5, which is unit testing. So now you have all your data, everything looks good. You converted all your licenses to bundle licenses. So what are you going to do now? So now till now, if you are followed it, so the system was made available to you. By default, it would have been made, the developer engineering server I'm talking about, would have been made available to you in quiet mode, right? And then for the HTM, you would have stopped the services, because HTM works at the database level. So you have to stop all the services. So you'll be doing a self-service request to stop the services. So then you remote all your data. So right now the services are not up, right? All your data's there, everything is there, the services are not up. So now you'll do a self-service request to bring everything up in full mode. Full mode means all the processes, all the escalations and processes and activities will be turned on. So that way, your escalation processes, your reconciliation, your normalization, SLM, CMDB, everything will be on full on and working. And email, you have an option. Either you can tell the team, you can select the option to turn it off or turn it on. Since there's a form called AR email mailbox configuration, you can set it to disable if you don't want email. So that's again self-service. You can do that automatically for you. You can do it yourself, and then that will prevent any email going out if you don't want email to come out. Otherwise, email will flow through on your development server and you can validate it. Right? So performing unit testing. So unit testing, what we strongly encourage you to do is, even though you're fixing it there, please create deployment packages. The reason for this is if you want to go back and forth, it'll be very useful, right? So we strongly encourage you to have deployment packages. And the reason is while you're doing your UAT, you'll be practicing this step, right? Because while you're doing your UAT in QA or prod, there will be quite more available for you to only make changes, right? So you'll be fixing the code or fixing the workflows in dev, and you'll be promoting that to QA to unblock your testing use cases, right? So that's why we want you to get used to the same deployment packages even in this stage, right? While unit testing, we again encourage you to create the deployment packages for your fixes. Either the fixes are done by you or given or done by BMC through a ticket, doesn't matter. Find that workflow, find that changes and export them, right? And ensure all issues fixed, right? So either you write a case or you expect, that's what I said. So either it was fixed given by BMC or fixed given by you, all needs to be packaged, right? And then now once your testing is completed, we want you to restore back to goal backup 2 and apply these fixes. So now anything you saw, anything you fixed during unit testing is already there in your backup, but without data. So that's the key, right? So now you would overwrite your goal backup 2 because we at any point of time, we only want you to have like 3 backups because of the sizing and the spacing and whatnot, right? So golden backup 1 will be with all your customizations, no data. Golden backup 2 will be with your data, right? So now you'll be overwriting the golden backup 2 because you have imported all these fixes, right? Then you'll set the system in quiet mode. But after this, you will not be doing any more testing in a dev environment, because you already validated everything is good to go. Now you already set the system in quiet mode, right? So again, make sure that during testing, the project team also validates and user your test cases. This is the important reason is in some projects where we have been is they do a sanity and make sure everything is working, but let's say the customer end users has like 10 or 20 use cases which they want to test the very first day you give them the system, right? So in some projects they basically either they forget that or oversee that. So just want to put a friendly note there saying that the basic sanity you're validating here, please also consider the customer's top 10 or 20 use cases they'll be testing when you release the QA or product environment to them, right? So please also test those use cases here and see if they're also working. Right? And this is a screenshot for a deployment console where you can go and create your packages, right? So just give a screenshot there. And once you create a package, so you can put a name and you can export and you can import. So now we want you to do your license conversion and delta migration and license conversion. So the reason we are doing delta migration here, there are 2 benefits, right? So now we are kind of early in the cycle, right? Because you have before UAT cycle, when it's even before the full-fledged UAT, but you're satisfied with the environment now. So dev is functional running, you've done your testing, you've done your use cases, you're also tested customers 20 or top 20 use cases, everything is working great with all the data too, right? So now is the opportunity to practice the delta data. So there are 2 benefits in practicing immediately here, because you'll have an opportunity way early in the cycle to find out what type of issues you'll see and encounter and how you need to fix those from a data perspective, do's and don'ts, whatnot. And then it also helps you to determine the time needed, right? So let's say if you see this from stage 4 to stage 6, so stage 4 is about the data migration, full migration, right? And then stage 5 was only a unit testing. Let's say maximum maybe 1 week or 10 days, whatever you do, right? So it'll give you an idea, like if I'm exporting and importing 10 days, how long is it doing, right? So that'll be the worst case scenario. On a go live, you'll definitely we won't be encouraging you to bring in 10 days of data, but it'll be much less. But this will give you a worst case scenario too, right? So you can time it out, see, validate your post migration task, because The delta migration, incremental run post-migration tasks are much simpler. You don't have to run all the post-migration steps. You only have to run maybe a couple. So it'll give you an idea. Those are the two major benefits. That's why we want you to run this at this time and not later in the cycle. So you, as a project team, complete this exercise. So now you're jack of all trades, what is needed on this project, right? So again, get the to execute the immediate cutover, get the latest copy again, please, on the staging server, then create a self-service request to stop all services, run incremental data migration run, right? So that's what you would do. So this is how the screen is going to look. So all data incremental is what you want you to choose, and then pick a date. So let's say you completed your migration on 1st December, and you're in February. Again, this is a too longer duration, but just an example, right? So it'll tell you, it'll give you the confirmation, and then you confirm the migration. So again, there are a few post-migration scripts you should run, and the most important thing we want to do also complete your form count analysis. So that way you'll get an idea of that all the data is migrated, and then at this stage we want you to create a new backup. So far you have only seen 2 backups, gold backups, 1 and 2, right? So this is 3, which we want you to also have and readily available anytime you need. So the golden backup 3 will always have your Delta data also captured in there. So the reason Visual Workplace Catalog is optional, so mostly because you're only a week or 10 days off, you may not have anything to be migrated again. But if your customer, or if you have created some catalog between the stage 4 and stage 6, you can. But that's why it's optional. Mostly we have seen ITSM data, right? So again, smart reporting, these products, they don't have any Delta migration. So you have to do a full migration if it's needed. So this, again, in this stage, it's optional because you just migrated all the data. So at this point, we want you to start all services in quiet mode and then revalidate it, right, at this stage. Again, you have to run the license conversion because you did a Delta data. So now we are in the UAT cycle. So this is what we recommend. So by default, when you get your environments, your dev and QA usually will be the environments will not be what do you say? They're not built to for your what do you call multi-user testing, put it that way, right? If you have concurrent users, you want to test your typical dev and QA environment are not built for that. So they're built for a few users to log in and do functional validations and whatnot. But if you want to check for your performance, check for your response times, check for your load testing, all that, we have to only do it in the production environment, the to be production environment, right? So that's the key. So once you're in this stage, right? Once you're in stage 6. So this is the backup. It'll be restored to your QA and prod, because at this time you already practiced your Delta. Everything is working. You're already validated. So at this point you can take this backup, put it on QA and prod, and that's where you'll be validating your functional use cases and bringing your end users and have your testing. You can, and in parallel, these two can happen in parallel. In your QA, you can do functional testing, and then in your prod, you can continue functional testing and also do your SSI performance and concurrent user testing and things like that, right? And we want you to complete this testing till all your blocker issues are fixed. So you may need 1 or 2 cycles. That's fine. So that's the key. So don't exit stage 7 unless all blocker issues are fixed. That's what is the reminder here. UAT issues found should be fixed on the development staging server. So you're not fixing directly on QA prod. You won't have permissions. You'll only fix in dev staging server. You will create packages to promote it to the QA environment and product environment, and you keep doing the 1, 2, 3 till all your blocker issues are fixed and signed off. The good news is all the fixes are happening in your dev, so you don't have to worry about it. So next DB restore, when you do from dev to prod, will have all your fixes, right? Okay, stage 8 is optional, but most customers, I won't say most, but some customers will have these changes. So this is when you're not able to freeze, right? So, but before you go to the pre-final migration stage, make sure this is a reminder that you should have all your packages for all your customization, you should have packages for all your fixes happen during the UAT cycles. Again, as I said earlier, right? Let's say during your testing in dev or QA or prod individually, right? You've ran into configuration issues. Please, when you create those tickets for configuration fixes with the SaaS team, do not allow them to close or do not close them till that configuration is applied in all three environments. Don't worry about the state of the environments. The reason I'm saying that is, so let's say you found a configuration which is 2000, you fixed it to 4000 in dev, which is what you need, right? And everything, everybody's okay with that. And then make sure that the 4000 is applied immediately in QA and prod. The benefit of this is, let's say after a week, you're going to do a DB refresh ticket from dev to QA. Guess what's going to happen? The first step on the DB refresh process is going to export the existing configurations on the target, which means your 4000 change is already there. So you don't have to track it and you don't have to maintain it. So that's why anytime you do a configuration fix, make sure that fixes that is applied in all the environments, as long as that fixes something everybody agrees. When I say everybody, you said you want it and SaaS team agrees, so it's okay, it's allowed, that configuration is allowed to keep it at that number. Yeah, then make sure that is immediately applied. That way, it's an advantage that whenever your DB refresh is happening, those configurations will be automatically exported and imported for you, preserved for you, right? So these three are prerequisite. If you don't have these three ready, don't go to next stage. We stay in stage 7 till you get all this done, because this will give you a lot of advantage and making sure you have everything you need to go to the next stages, right? So stage 8 is where you'll get a final opportunity to do a freeze. So this is a permanent freeze for your customer. And as I said, typically after this, you should be able to go live. You'll be going live in a few weeks, so for sure, right? So in this stage, you don't have an opportunity. You cannot go anywhere else. You have to restore the golden backup 1, which is without data. The reason is because you make changes, customer or made changes to the forms and fields and whatnot, or CMDB classes, which means the HTM needs to do for the HTM tool. You know, rediscover you do a rediscovery so that it can capture those changes. Otherwise, HTML will not know your changes, right? So it will not be able to migrate the Delta changes. So for that reason, you have to go back to Golden Backup 1 and bring in your changes and also rerun the HTM for discovery. So it will discover the new changes. So this is the high-level steps you will do. You restore your Golden Backup 1 in a developer staging server. Again, apply all the fixes. So now all the fixes you have, right? The packages you have, you can apply it, because now it is not that you're going to Golden Backup 1, you're losing everything. That's the reason. Some folks get that wrong feeling. No, just because you're going backup 1, you're not losing anything, because that's where these packages come in handy, right? So now these packages have your fixes from your UAT cycles, right? So go back to Golden Backup 1, apply all the fixes. Guess what? Where are you now? Now you have an environment where everything's supposed to work. Only thing you don't have is your data, right? So that's good. So apply that. Now you bring in your Delta stuff. Perform your 3-way reconciliation. As I said, perform the HTM discovery. Then run your full migration. You don't have a choice because you made changes on the forms and classes and whatnot, right? And so you got to do this. And even if you made a change on a SRD, SVT, you also need to do a full migration. It's not Delta only. Okay. So 2 things, right? If you make changes in the forms, fields, classes, attributes, full migration. If you make changes on SRDs, SVTs, again, full migration, no choice, right? But moving forward, you'll freeze it. Then you do Delta migration, then you go live, right? So export and bring in your data, perform full migration. Again, we are overwriting Golden Backup 3. Why we are not overwriting 2? Because for some reason, if this doesn't work, we can go tell the customer, you know what, your Delta changes are good, but there's problems with the Delta changes. It's taking longer. Let's go back to Golden Backup 2 without your Delta changes. Let's go live with that. So you have an option. So that's why you're not overwriting Golden Backup 2. You're overwriting Golden Backup 3, which is only having your backup with your Delta data, right? So at this point, you will have Golden Backup 1. You can go back to. You still have your Golden Backup 2 if you want to go live with that, because of the changes introduced for some reason is causing more issues, right? So you're overriding Golden Backup 3 and you verify, and this is where you do a final testing, stage 8, not in stage 9 or stage 10. Stage 9 and stage 10 is only validating, right? And smoke testing. So this is the opportunity for you to do a final testing before you go to the immediate cutover 2. So this final testing, you can keep it 1 week, 2 week, whatever. Make sure all the goal should be that, because you know that the changes done on the UAT cycles are already working. So concentrate on the use cases which were touched by these deltas. That's what I would recommend, right? So that way you focus on that, then you can find out regressions, you can find out something is not working, whatever. So those use cases only. So then you can make a call how you want to proceed, right? Either with these changes or without these changes. Okay. So if you want to go without these changes, go back up 2, move forward. That's it. Okay. Okay, emulator cutover 2. So again, we encourage not to do this because some partners and some situations I've seen, they do it 1 month earlier, 1.5 months earlier. Our recommendation is please don't do that. The reason for this is the emulator cutover 2 is what you're going to be practicing on a go live. So on a go live, you want a lesser downtime, right? So typically it's a Friday evening till Sunday morning or Saturday, whatever, right? So it's 10, 16, whatever hours is needed. So for the DB restore and whatnot. So, and again, your Delta migration should be very, very crisp. So your Delta migration should not take more than a couple of hours. So that's the key, right? So that's why we strongly we don't encourage you to do this activity, emulator cutover 2 before not 8 to 10 days before go live or maybe 2 weeks. So don't do it before that because then you'll have the actual situation, right? So ensure the issues uncovered during the final testing are fixed, because remember you did a final testing. If you did stage 8, if you skip stage 8, it's fine. But if you're forced to do stage 8 because of the changes you brought over, so make sure you also have the fixes for those. Then you perform your incremental run, of course, with your copy of your database, right? Okay, so there are again 2 benefits, right? It's going to update the you can time the time it took to bring in the 8 or 10 days of data, and you can time all the steps, right? The bill of materials which you need to do for the go live. So all that you can basically create basically a task and then time it, and that will become your bill of materials for your go live. So only thing you may or may not be able to test on this is the health check, right? But again, work with your SaaS team. If you have a time and window for the health check, you can still practice that. Otherwise, whatever the health check window, you need to add to your bill of material, right? So again, you basically make sure that you have all your fixes done, packaged and applied during the final testing, do your Delta migration, run the post migration steps, and this time you need to create a change request and replace your goal build 3. So this one, you're still doing it on your developer staging server, correct? So which means you can do a self-service on this one. You don't need to do a change request. Create a ticket, again, you can do this yourself. This is a self-service ticket. This is also a self-service ticket, and time each activity, right? And again, make sure you include all these activities in your project plan for the emulator cutover 2 as well. So stage 10. So this is a kind of a go live template. Again, this template will be available to partners and professional services. So you can leverage this and work with your customers on this. So this is just a screenshot of that. So the go live template will have task for your go live announcement, your closing down. What are the things you need to close down on premises? It has some pointers, references. You can add more lines to it. For example, it talks about disabling monitoring integration, disabling any incoming integration, disabling shutting down user-facing service first, and all that. So it has some best practices. You can add more to it based on your what you have on your environments, right? And then it also talks about the final Delta migration it needs to happen. And only 2 things you need to worry about on the go live. You need to create 2 tickets basically, right? One for your change request to have your DB restore from your staging server to production, and the other one is your health check assessment. That's the only 2 tickets you need to worry about it. Okay, and we encourage you to create this ticket at least 7 to 10 days before go live, so that all the planning and execution can happen properly, right? So just going deeper, internal communication, we have a section for that, and we have a section for your on-prem task you need to do around the go live, and then you have a section for your final Delta migration, right? And for example, here we have recommended not more than 90 minutes, not more than 30 minutes for your any failures during import. So hopefully you should not have anything because you practiced it. There should not be any errors in your Delta migration. That's the expectation. So that's why we said, even if you have it, for some reason there's some surprises, but we don't anticipate anything taking more than this time, right? So this is this is an estimate, 600 minutes as an estimate for your dev to prod refresh, right? And some customers I've seen, they may be applying some code changes or config changes if required. But again, as I said, if you follow the process, all the config changes should be already available, right? So again, if required, we've added some time for the customers as well here in the project team. Health check assessment, as I told you, we need to raise a ticket, and then there's an automation which will run. And these are the things it will cover. So it'll cover all your URL accessibility, your configurations on CMDB, email, any escalation polls configurations we have out of the box or you added, all that will be covered. So whatever you see on the screen will be checked for you. It doesn't check your data or anything like that because that's your responsibility, but it checks anything around it. So making it at environment level, everything will be up and running for you. That's what it basically checks. Right? And let's say if you ask for a specific time zone setting and all that, anything applied, it'll check that as well. All the connectors should be working, and it'll also do your license audit too to see anything you're still missing or whatnot. Right? So again, this is the recommended smoke test we want everybody to every project or project team to do. I mean, validate all the key areas like mid-tier ITSM, all the product areas, brandings and whatnot, whatever you made changes on, whatever reporting you brought in, whatever service catalogs you created, make sure you validate those for sure. And some sample use cases you have said for the functionality validations, right? Depends on what you are, where you want. So more like a DWP user, smart IT user, focus on that, right? So you're given some indications of where all you need to validate. And of course, we strongly recommend validate all your integration, right? Again, this is just placeholders. I can populate with your data, right? Again, so of course, if there's any issues, you find out the blockers, so you need time for that. So again, it's a customer partner, BMC kind of partner, team effort. And then of course you need to go, then you make a go no go decision and you go live, right? So that's basically, so one thing we want to make sure that all your work, so let's say you have, I don't know, you have like 30 or 40 issues, and out of which like say 6 were blocker. So you promoted the blocker issues, you validated that and you're good to go. But let's say the rest of the work is still there in your development staging environment, right? At this stage, I'm not saying do it on the go live, at least do it immediately after the go live, like maybe the first or second day or the first week of the go live, after the go live. Make sure you go to the development staging server and export all the changes which is not promoted to prod. Let's say, as I said, you have 10 issues you're working on, continue working on that, fix those, export those, right? And before you go ask for decommissioning, right? So before you go ask for decommissioning of staging server, make sure any work which is not promoted, please export that as deployment packages or however you want it and keep it. Okay. Just a reminder on that. Again, just in the go live, go no go decision, identify any fixes and go live. Again, I said the templates will help you to plan and execute it properly, right? So with that, I'll be transferring you to Malik, who will be covering some exciting customer stories where profitable services help these customers, and they're happy customers now in our SaaS.
Thanks, Murali. Appreciate it. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. What we'll be discussing today, my name is Malik Underwood with BMC Professional Services. I am an architect and a practice lead over at BMC Professional Services. And our goal here is to really help our customer and our partners really explore that maturity level when it comes to the migration and ensure that you have the confidence and the ability to be able to go ahead and move forward with the migration. Again, it may sound like a lot of information, but once you get involved with understanding the 10 steps, it's really a process that is repeatable. And what we want to do is share some customer success stories, some things that we work with other customers on, and help them achieve that goal, right? So many different customers have different goals when it comes to Helix. And what we'll share with you is our first customer, which is a large state agency that oversees various services and regulations. And what we will talk through is their journey going to Helix and what that entailed. You can go ahead and move to the next slide, Sam. So in this instance, we'll share 2 customer stories. One would be that large state agency. The other would be a multinational insurance agency. And what we would like to do is talk through the overall migration process, but talk through each journey for each customer. Going with the first customer, which is our large state agency, their plan was to really ensure that their configurations remain intact. In addition to that, that they can cut costs and really look at try to migrate the customer to Helix within a specific time frame. They had a time frame because they only used portions of the migration itself or portions of our product, and they wanted to really get to Helix to take advantage of some of the features that were not available on-prem. For example, they were just using incident management. Nevertheless, they had an external system as well. And in that external system, they would gather information, collect data, and they would pass that via web services to the Helix or to the on-prem environment in order to create tickets. Well, that was costly. It was sometime it worked, sometime it did not. And they really wanted to take advantage of some of the things that we have around DWP, around business workflows, virtual agent. So what they decided to do was to move to Helix. So they reached out to us and asked if we can get this migration done for them, in which we accepted and explained to them based on our analysis that this will be a perfect candidate to move to the cloud. And so along the way, what was delivered for them is that they had some standard configuration, but they also had some non-standard configuration. So they looked at things that we can use and recommended the best practice to them in order to transform those non-standard. So for example, if you have I'm sure you all are aware that you may have WSDLs out there, right? We know WSDLs are pretty heavy in some cases. So we did some transformations to look at REST APIs and converted some of those SOAP web services over to APIs, which really helped them understand why they were having some type of hiccups in their system before with the throughput. And now because it's lightweight with REST API, it really added value and speeded up the actual time frame for them when it comes to implementing solutions. In addition to that, they were able to deprecate some of the legacy tools that they use to collect ticket information. Now being on the Helix platform, if you can go ahead and go to the next slide, it went ahead and we made it simple for them from a migration standpoint. They didn't have multiple places to enter information. It was a single platform, which opened up a plethora of new opportunities for them around digital workplace, smart IT, virtual agent, and also business workflows. Business workflows specifically because they always wanted to do a line of business, but did not have that opportunity to do lines of business. But now with business workflows, it gives them the ability to look at microsites and be able to tailor specific department-based services for their customer base. So it actually helped them reduce the costs around multiple services around supporting external systems and have a single platform today. Okay. Any questions? If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat as we walk through this, because I definitely want to get some feedback from our customers community and partner community as well. Well, we had a different approach with this customer here. This was a multinational insurance company. And let me tell you, they expand across most of the US and some other countries as well. What's really remarkable about this customer, they didn't want to just go with the standard migration. They wanted to look at a whole transformation roadmap. They've had our product for quite some time, but they've never taken advantage of some of the opportunities that we have, some of the power of our tool. And so what this customer wanted to do is look at a program initiative. It wasn't just a migration itself, but how can we take advantage of all these different tool sets that we've purchased already, and how can we move that into the cloud and get the best use of that tool? And so what we've done along with the migration strategy, we implemented a program initiative. And that program initiative is taking all their products and services that they had and looking at their long-term business drivers and goals. And based on that, what they always wanted to do is use automation. They fused asset management, CMDB, and digital workplace into one component in order to do automation around digital workplace. For example, they had a service that would provision a laptop to an end user or the requested for. And then based on that, they wanted to automatically assign an asset ID and an asset CI to that individual without having to touch the actual asset management console. And so we work with the customer to really look at their strategic roadmap. And that strategic roadmap included a migration to Helix as well. But first and foremost, we did some transformation activity to help them achieve that goal with mirroring what they used to do with this homegrown application and bringing that directly into digital workplace, adding the value to automate asset management and CMDB, and giving them the value of their tool set. Once that was done, they wanted to move forward. We're looking at microsites around business workflows as well, and they were able to get all this done within a correct timeline for that customer in order to really understand the power of the tool. So now they can take advantage and save cost here because they no longer have to support an external system. They're really not having drop packets because the communication is all internal, and they still get the value add that they were getting in their external tool directly into that product line. So I can tell you the strategies in order to move things forward from a migration standpoint, they are there. We know that they work, and we do it in a repeatable fashion with hundreds of customers. And if you need that support, you need some help, or you need some insight, feel free to reach out to our R&D or professional services team, and we can help you along that journey. All right. Any questions that we have?
There isn't anything in the chat. We have obviously got other questions as well,
Sure.
Malik. I don't know if you wanted to share further, but I'm going to just unmute everyone because I am conscious of time. There's been a lot of information that we've gone through,
Yeah.
but I'm just opening up the floor out to the rest of the customers that are still on.
Excellent.
Thank you for staying on. It's quite a lot to take in. We have got some questions that I think we may need Murali to answer. I know you've done a very good job at answering a lot of those questions. So for those that are still on, feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand, or while we're doing that, let's get started on a couple of the questions. So Murali, we've got a few in the Q&A that would be great to see if you can answer those. So someone has just made an observation and just said service desk license would also have access to financial management, but we are mostly selling the suite these days. So someone was just saying it's a minor quibble. I don't think there's anything you need to elaborate on there, but that was conversational. We then have something from Ganix, which says, what would you suggest as an action plan to migrate for the integration currently implemented in the on-prem environment according to best practice implementations on cloud? 1, DB link configured in Remedy database to external database, or 2, workflow running direct SQL to external database using the DB link, for example, triggering PL SQL in external database to automate actions. Can you see that, Murali? Maybe just have a quick read. And Ganix, if you're still on, feel free to also come off mute. Maybe you want to, it might be easier for you to just sort of explain your thinking, if you can hear us. I can see you're still on. Murali, do you see that question in the Q&A?
Yeah, but definitely we should take this off. And the reason for that is it's more like an implementation, but I need to know more about the use case and all that. The reason is, so DB link, I mean, we need to identify why these are needed and for what is the use case and what are the thing, and we can try to see if any best practices can be given to this use case for either using REST APIs and whatnot. So it needs more like a deeper discussion because we need to know more on what was the requirement, what was the use case, rather than trying to resolve using the implementation, right? That's something we don't want to do at this stage. Unless we understand the requirement use case, we'll be able to answer it much better.
Ganix, was there anything you wanted to share? I can see you've come off mute. Hopefully you're able to talk. Can you hear us? I don't know if his audio is working. I will connect you with Murali offline. It might be easier if you're unable to
and if
speak.
they have an active project, right? If they have what we typically do is they have like an account manager or CSM. There's something called a sealed request they can create, and then we can definitely use that to work and answer those questions, or go to get on sessions and things like that. So definitely that's the next step is what I
will connect you offline, and also if you give me the process, I'll share it for other customers as well so they can reach out to you directly, because I know that was an offer of help as well. So next question is regarding authentication methods. You mentioned AD and SAML. I don't know who asked that question because it's anonymous, so I don't know if that's something you want to elaborate on, Murali.
Yeah, so we do allow, we do support 2 authentications in SaaS. One is for the SAML and the Active Directory. So those are only 2 we support. Unless there was a specific question about any other support methods, please let us know. But currently we only support those 2 methods for authentication.